And due to editing, you didn't even know I was gone, did you? I do believe we had touched upon the fact that I'm going to go through and try to make all of this equipment work. So far, with the help of my husband, I have another microphone coming, as if I'm ever going to really have a guest. But we're going to go with that idea anyway. I am broadcasting here from the bar, as amazing as that sounds. And to actually think this might be broadcast on television, which it kind of will be, maybe. So, once again, I'm going to throw this on the floor, see what shakes it. Anything anybody wants to throw out there with it? That would be kind of you. Because otherwise, I'm just talking to myself, which I do quite a lot of all the time. Usually, I win the argument, so it's a win-win for me either way. I've seen the facts of today's news, not of course on the political channels that we used to call news channels. I usually watch the Israeli news channel and the German news channel. Now I'm wondering why oh dear, I'm getting alerts through my phone, through my headphones. Yeah, I still haven't worked out this equipment at all. Maybe I should have stuck with the term old hippie instead of lady hippie. Lady does sound better. We'll go with that. No, we're not telling you what my age is. We'll just go with lady hippie. That should age me enough. So, anybody else out there want to know what's going to be next? All of us would like to know what's going to be next. It's just a blooming disaster out there. Literally. If it's not volcanoes going off, it's earthquakes. Japan yesterday had 155 earthquakes starting with a 7.6. Can you fathom that? This is an island. This is an island. So you know, at this point, there's going to be tsunamis coming at you. I mean, Japan named these big waves. That's what it means. Tsunami means like huge wave. So on the island, they have 155 earthquakes in a day. There's fires all over the island. Nothing's apparently able to be put out. I don't know why. Managed equipment wasn't working. They are an island. So I think they should invest some of that money to come up with some equipment that they could use seawater to pump on these fires. Of course, I imagine they'd have to have a lot of hose. I don't know. But it seems to me that they could use tankers at least. And I know they do so in certain areas. But Japan is very plagued by these, between volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis. It's a wonder that they even have an island left. It's very frightening. You have Iceland's volcano going off like crazy. Pretty much like destroying, I don't know, at least a third so far, I think, of Iceland. Again, an island. You had huge waves hitting California coastline. I believe it was the day before yesterday. It's just ridiculous. You look around the world and there's something going on. I mean, I'd like to say this term as biblical because it really does describe to most people like, this is huge. I just happen to be flipping through because I generally will watch YouTube because I like to see the different ideas that people have, what they're talking about. There's more freedom of expression than there is in most things. I'm not much of a movie watcher. It takes too long. I'd sit through still. Not good at that either. So I'm looking at different clips, and I'm seeing that this week or two perhaps ago that they're getting massive amounts of rain in Dubai, and I'm thinking, what? And this is the caption, and so I'm picking this up. I go ahead. All right, I'm going to watch this because what? This is the Sahara Desert. Like they don't get an inch in a year, so I got to see what's going on with this. And I pull it up, and I'm seeing camels floating by. I mean, camels are floating by, and at this point you're thinking, "Yep, I've seen everything." Camels are floating by, and this is Dubai. The next shot shows a geyser of water spewing from a sand dune, and like it's a fire hydrant. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm like, okay, really, this is, at what point do they call this biblical? Mecca is hit with such rains that it floods things. And it brings down some of these cranes that they're being worked on, and it really messes up Mecca, which is the holiest city for the Muslims. And irregardless of what's going on with Israel and Hamas, it does not include all Muslims like it does not include all Jews of certain things. So I'm thinking, at what point do we go, is this really predicted? Are we looking at the end times? Because as for me, I don't believe in organized religion. I believe in a supreme being. I even believe in Yeshua, but I don't believe in this camel floating by stuff. I'm like, what in God's name? So I'm like, okay, let's see what else is going on. And from the camel floating by, I see hail is striking Mecca. The crane is falling on the square cube. And I've always found it fascinating as they do the Hajj at Mecca. Sorry, I'm sure they got everybody's ears. My cat, one of my cats, was deciding to mess with something on the bar. I'm broadcasting from the other side of the bar. We were going to turn me around and broadcast as if from the view of the bartender. It's just easier at this point. My chair goes up and down, which is a very wonderful thing when you're only 5'2", if I'm still that at my age. So we have camels floating by. We've got hail striking. We've got wind striking. It's blowing people across the Mecca floors. It's absolutely wild. I was totally gobsmacked. I'm looking at this thinking, what in the world? What's next? And sure as shooting, there come the locusts. I kid you not, you cannot make this stuff up. And then the crane falls on the cube. And this is just Mecca. I mean, it's just, I'm like, I have to go with biblical on this because it's an amazing place. When they do the Hajj, it is so wild looking. They're all in white. They're going, same motion. It's a beautiful thing to see. And I like the area view where you can see everybody going around in the blank cube. And, of course, everybody would love to know what's in the blank cube. But, of course, we'd like to know what the heck happened to the Ark of the Covenant. I don't think that Indiana Jones found it. But we could always, give him an email, find out what he knows. I don't think that's going to help us a heck of a lot. But, we could always, like I said, give it a shot. I like the idea of not editing, of speaking off the cuff about anything and everything, which is why that's the name of this channel. And, of course, it dates me. I am a lady, and I'm still a hippie. I'm an Army veteran, a mother of one and a grandmother of two. My grandson is 25 nearly, and my granddaughter will be 12. So that dates me well enough for practical purposes. Right, there goes one of my cats again in the background. These guys love to be in the shot. Don't know what that's about. But there they are. That's Tasman. It's too long a story to put here, but it's like they call us the cat lady or me in any event. My husband's been very good. He actually is the one paying enormous prices for cat food. For not just the indoor cats, but the outdoor cats. Actually caught people coming by wanting to drop their cat off because they heard there was a lady who was nice to cats. You cannot make this stuff up. So he's telling the lady, no, we already can't afford to feed the ones that are here, but we can't see anyone starving. Yet nobody, these organizations that for animals, the USPCA and so forth and so on. The only thing that I could find when I reached out to see if I could get these animals some help was send your gift to, send your money to, yada, yada, yada. You could not get any assistance from these organizations. You can volunteer, you can send them money, but you can't get them to do anything about the fact that people drop off animals in the cul-de-sac. We live on the corner. The cul-de-sac is down our one side of our yard to the back of us, and there's a wooded area, and so it just seems to grow. I had started feeding one cat 5 years ago with a broken paw because he wouldn't get any closer, and it was freezing and so forth and so on. So I took care of this cat, big cat, black and white, big cat. I thought his paw was broken. I believe later on, though, that it had been bitten by a snake or something. And in any event, he lived and he did fine, and he came around. The neighbors started asking me about this big black white cat. I didn't put my finger on the fact that maybe they wouldn't like the fact that we were feeding this cat. At that point, we've always had dogs. We still had our Smoky Bear, who was a Chow Husky, and Angel Daisy, who was a rescue as well. And we had Serenity, we had Lady Cinders, and we had Tiger Rose. These were the animals that we had inside at the time. So it turns out that the lady across the street kept watching this cat, and I had no idea she was going to go around to the other neighbors and complain, or that any of the neighbors had a problem, as far as that went. But the lady next door to us has me served by animal control with a ticket, because I had fed this cat. This particular cat had now found a wife. Yes, I kid you not. I always brought this one cat with him. And it turned out they had kittens. And they were safe here. They knew that. So they had kittens in our boat. So we, of course, were not going to hurt those kittens. And again, my husband's with me. We go to court. We're told I had to pay a $20, $30 fine. This is what I'm told. And I'm thinking it's at the courthouse. Suddenly we're in court, and before I know it, this judge, who every other case before us had no problems, we were the only black ones. And sure enough, there we are. And he's letting everybody else go with just a warning. Not us. Hold on, folks. We seem to have lost our camera again. There we are. In any event, so I'm still not quite copacetic with this. I didn't actually think I was stupid, but that day I was beyond stupid. It was like I dropped stupid behind me, never to see again. So the white couple gets up, they fed cats. The other people, the dog bit the neighbor, and this judge puts his mask on, runs down every case in front of us, and hugs the people and tells them, no, we're not going to do that, y'all are neighbors, yada yada. Get along, and nobody gets fined, nobody gets anything. So we get up there, and my husband is supportive, of course, and it wasn't his fault. I was the one feeding them. And so I'm standing up there, and he says something to the woman in front of us, which again turned out to be our neighbor, and then turns to me and says, good morning, and I'm thinking, this is a nice guy, and I'm going to have to pay a fine. So I'm good morning back, and he says, I understand that you've been feeding cats. And I'm a truthful person. I'm in court, I've been sworn to tell the truth, and yet this man has now tricked me into testifying against myself, and this doesn't quite kick into my head for a minute. And so I say, yes, there's a family with 2 children, so there are 4 that I do feed outside, and there's a heated greenhouse, and this was wintertime, so they can go in and get warm. And he turns back and he says to the neighbor, I suppose you had to pay to have her, served. And she, of course, says, yes, she did. And he says, well, we'll add that to her cost, too. At this point, I'm using my inhaler because I'm already upset. It's finally hit me full force that this guy is going to bury me. And then he trapped me into actually testifying against myself. And I can't breathe, so I'm using my inhaler. And when I get upset and know that if I say anything, I'm going to make it worse, then I start crying because I'm so angry and I can't say anything. And he turns to me and he says, not to me, actually, to I'm assuming the DA, who's in the middle of the lane. Again, I can't see this during COVID. And what purpose and fine do you think she should be leveled with? We believe she should have the heaviest fine, $200 and 6 months probation. And I'm like, for feeding a freaking cat? I can't say this because I know it's going to get worse if I say it. In my head, I'm like this. My husband's, again, he's trying not to say anything because we both know we're just totally screwed here. So he says, well, half the fine and 1 month's probation. Because you see, you have to pay also a fine when you're on probation. You have to pay so much to be on probation. So we go over, and it turns out to be almost $500 with this, that, the other. And my husband pays it I think it was the next day. Yeah, we had to go to the probation court. So he pays everything the next day. So here I've done all this, and my husband's still paying more. And I had no idea that this was going to happen. So this is what happens to people who are kind. If you're a good Samaritan and you see an animal starving and you feed them, we did the same thing with several dogs that got loose, I'm assuming. Same with the cats. These were domestic cats. They were not alley cats. The two babies would have been. But basically, the ones that we're feeding at the moment, almost all of them are domestic cats that somebody threw out of their car because their apartment didn't let them have an animal anymore. So instead of taking them to the shelter, which we have a shelter here, I can't mention where I'm at, but it's a kill shelter. There is a shelter in another state, which is very close to us. It's about 8 miles away, 9 miles away. That is a no-kill shelter. So we tried to figure out what to do about all this. While this was going on, the animal control was trapping the cats in the cold, in the rain, in a cage that the neighbor had agreed to put on his property. So they did catch all of them, but they missed one mother and the babies. And she had hidden in our boat. We knew she was there. We didn't say anything. Actually, it was before she had the baby. She was just pregnant at the time because this kill shelter, if the animal was pregnant, killed them right away. They didn't let them wait. If there were kittens, they would keep them a few days. I could hear in my headphones my other cat, Pixie, is playing with this ball like crazy. So I'm hearing this ringing bell in my ear. So you'll excuse me if I tend to go, what the heck? So this is why I point out to you, if you believe that these animal, I don't even know what term to give them. Shelters is not the correct word. These animal organizations that say they're going to help these animals. Betty White was one of the biggest, and Lauren Bacall were fighters for all animals. And bless them, they're already across the Rainbow Bridge now, but they did a lot of good things for animals while they were here. But I couldn't find anything or any organization that was supposedly that's what they did, was to help animals. I couldn't find any that would even answer an email, let alone phone. On the phone, you could pay them money. On the emails, you could pay them money. But you weren't getting no help from them. I reached out to, say, Purina and all these other places that make the poor kittens' foods, which are not very good if you ask me. I don't want to go into that. But I reached out to them trying to explain that we're trying to feed these animals and keep them safe. Maybe there went Pixie behind me. Thank God she let the ball go. Could we get any assistance? Is there a way to buy in more bulk than what we were buying? My husband's going broke here. It's several $100s a month to do just the indoor cats alone. We have that many. Because you have litter, and he spoils them. He gives them treats. So he buys big bags of treats. And they have both moist food and dry food. Now, the outdoor cats, they don't have all of that. But they do get fed twice a day, fresh water. And they have a bit of moist food mixed into their dry food. And we've already gotten to 9 outside, and this is quite expensive at this point. And so I've reached out trying to say, okay, I'm not trying to get anything free from you. I just want to buy in more bulk so that it, hopefully it would cut the cost a little bit. And again, this is during COVID, so yeah, Walmart's open, and they're just going higher and higher and higher. A good example of that is I thought I would buy a roast to make for dinner. The roast didn't weigh 2 pounds, and it was $21.50. I was like, seriously, no. I'm becoming a vegetarian again. So none of these reached back out to me. So if you see an animal who is abandoned, who does need help, I hope everyone out there will reach out and do so, that they will be the Good Samaritan. I did want to warn you that perhaps you could end up like me. Thank God my husband is a great guy. It cost him a lot, and he made sure that I did not stay on probation more than that few hours that he wanted to go and make sure that he had the right amount of money. And paid it off the next morning, because maybe not all of us would be so lucky. We certainly did not expect this. Again, it was close to the holidays, and it cost my husband several $100s to iron out my mistake. It wasn't his, it was mine. He's a good husband, and he indulges me in that, and he spends a fortune doing it, but it's not his fault. Although, at the same time, he will help anyone in need, be it an animal or a person. If he sees someone broke down beside the road, he's going to stop. And odds are he's going to get him running again. He's an ace mechanic as well. They call him MacGyver. He's been a truck driver 50-odd, 60-odd years. I'm not even sure myself. And a driver instructor for rigs. Can do just anything. MacGyver tag is really a true tag for this guy, because he can do anything. If there's wiring mixed is wrong, he'll fix that. It doesn't really matter. If it's a car, he'll fix it. It's a truck, if it's a rig, he'll fix it somehow. And of course they adore him, because whenever a rig breaks down, you got to get the wrecker and all this stuff, and it's several $1,000s. Especially if your rig is 5 states away. Even just a tire is going to cost you like $1,000. So he always maintained his truck. He always checked it and checked it and checked it. So if there was a problem, he caught it really quick. But he would fix it. If he was in the middle of the road somewhere, he moved that thing over, parked it, got the part locally, and he'd go back and he'd fix it. So the owners did not have to pay several $1,000s to get a new tire, because he had done all this, or to get whatever it needed. So he definitely earned the title of MacGyver. And thank God he did finally retire this year. I am so tickled, because he works very hard as it is, even at home. So knowing that he's not working double hard at home and out on the road, because that's what he did for the last 10, 11 years, pretty much, was, as he puts it, in the truck with the door shut. He wasn't jumping out of that truck or sleeping in the sleeper. He was running like crazy, and the other drivers were probably jealous, because he could make some money doing that. So we're now also trying to get used to living on a budget, because he always had whatever he wanted to do after he had survived stage 4 throat cancer. If he wanted it, he had the money. I saw no reason to tell him, no, you can't do that, because dude beat cancer, I beat cancer. So if he wanted it, he had the money. I don't see any problem with him getting it. So we decided, he knew I wanted hardwood floors, because I had pretty much shampooed up every bit of the carpet you could see, the mat. It was so shampooed up. We've been here almost 12 years. This was our son's starter home, which he talked my husband into buying, because they wanted to buy a bigger home, because they had a new baby coming, which surprise was when his son was 13 years old. So it's been fun to watch. Really fun. It's probably about to get a lot more fun, since she's going to turn 12. My granddaughter, beautiful, beautiful girl, intelligent. Oh my word. And love them all to death, but it's going to be entertaining. So we have all this going on. He takes up all the carpet, puts down wood floors for me, paints, and I had been saying our dining room table, because we'd had to downsize. This is a much smaller home than we were used to, even though it does have 3 bedrooms. We have the upstairs. So unlike overnight, I'm talking, the house was painted and the flooring was in, and he wanted to buy a bar. Well, I was fine with that, but I was like, can we just maybe get rid of the table and chairs, because it seated, I believe it was 8, maybe it was 2, 4, 6, maybe it was 6. Anyway, it was big, but my husband had gotten it, stained it himself, and it had a tile middle. It was a very nice table, but it's fairly big for this small place. And I had 2 hutches and a china cabinet and bookcases in this particular area, which you can't see. This is behind me, is the living area. So I was like, yeah, I have no trouble getting a bar, but we're going to have to move some things around. So before he gets the bar, he decides we'll get 1 china cabinet. And unfortunately for us, most people don't usually keep China anymore, including our children. They don't want it. One set of china that I have a 12-piece set of is older than my son, and I carried it like through Europe for years. So I really appreciated him not wanting that. So he managed to find a beautiful, large china cabinet. Everything fit. It's wonderful. So we put those two into the one. We took the bookcases out. We took the table and chairs out. Now we're ready, right? The floors are in and so forth. He starts looking for the bar. The bar, he thinks, is smaller than, what we ended up with. We'll put it that way. So off he goes to get the bar. I'm not going to say how much he paid. This guy always finds a deal. When he buys me a car, he hands me the title. I love that. You can't beat that. Because it was also another story. The one that made me drive. I always used mass transit. I was always in a big city. And unfortunately, where we are now, there's some small towns that don't have buses or taxis. Although I think you can Uber everywhere now. I haven't had to try that because he made me get my license and he keeps me in a car. And I usually have to ask him where I can put the gas tank, where to put the gas in the gas tank because I don't know where the gas tank is. So, yes, I'm one of those drivers. So we get all this done and he's off to get it. Now, he's got this little trailer that he actually extended out, built out himself, and welding the whole bit. Yes, he is MacGyver. So he goes on by himself to get this bar. I didn't even take the picture, or if I did, I didn't register it, which happens with me. And we thought, or at the time he thought, it was going to be like 4 feet of space on this bar. And he comes back, and he's got this like 8 to 10 foot bar with the matching mirror across from it, and the chairs and all this. And it is a wonderful thing. I love the bar. So we've been stacking it with different types of liqueurs and things there went my cat again behind me. And we bought new chairs and so forth. And it turned out perfect. The china cabinet that he had bought, the large one, all the rest had come out. And we are in the midst of trying to finish the upstairs, put everything in room, because that's where it's in boxes and so forth. If I need my sewing machine, I have to climb over 4 things and 2 pieces of furniture. Because I have 2 desks up there as well, which I really want to broadcast from that particular room. We just haven't had enough oomph to do so. So right now, I broadcast from the bar. And there went my cat again. That was Pixie again. It's almost as if she wants to be a TV star. It's like I tell my grandson, I'm going to go on the YouTube. He thinks that's funny. So, sorry, there's Tommy. Apparently they do want to be rock stars. I'm not real sure about what that's up. This is going to be a small recording because I, again, have to figure out what's what here and get all this equipment going the right way. And this is the first time I've tried it with the headphones. I'm not supposed to smoke, but every once in a while, my husband allows me a cigarillo. Now, that's not what they call them here. I don't know why. I used to smoke them when I was in Europe for several various reasons. It's just one, they go out if you're not smoking them. So, and I like them better than a cigarette. So it has the little holder and everything, not just a filter. I'm going to kill this cat because that ringing in my ears is just phenomenally loud. My husband bought the headset and was talking to me while he was at the location with the girl who was trying to sell it, trying to figure out which one to get me because they had so many. And we didn't want to spend $300 on something we didn't need to. My son bought me there she goes again. She's got the bell. My son, he bought all of the startup equipment for me to start this podcast. I liked the idea because I was always, like I said, on YouTube, so I decided I wanted to be actually on YouTube. I wanted to learn on YouTube, and I thought, well, what better way? Everybody else gets on, they talk about what they want to, and I see that they use, she goes to get with the bell, I'm going to have to kill a cat. I'm just saying, it's so loud in the headphones. So I get all this equipment together because I want to learn stuff. I want to talk to people. I want to see what they want to learn. Because I've seen this happen on these channels. It's the freest expression that I've ever seen. And I had to just find a way to participate in this. And my son, like I said, bought me the Startup Podcast Kit. My husband then went and bought more equipment, another microphone, headphones, so forth and so on, to enable me to do this. Now, I can't say whether I'm going to be any good at it, but at the same time, I think it's going to be a real hoot. I can't wait to find out what people really want to talk about. I didn't really want to edit. I didn't really want to put up other people's videos. It's kind of a form of plagiarism as far as I'm concerned. There are tons that I would put up because I love anything about ghost hunting, anything about like near-death experiences, anything like the camels floating by in the floods, Mecca getting hail and locusts, things like that are interesting. An entire volcano going off and 155 earthquakes in Japan. All that stuff is really interesting to me. So I'm hoping that I can get everybody out there, the whole bunch of Facebook people that are my friends. So I'm counting on them to like, share, tickle that little bell, which means probably 4. I understand this has something to do with the algorithms of keeping this channel live. Right now, like I said, we're just going with the equipment. I don't even know if I'm going to broadcast this section. I may just keep it for posterity. Who knows? It's a whim at the moment. I really, like I said, I wanted to do it just live off the cuff. Forgive the errors. Throw it in the comments. You want to see this? You want to talk about that? Throw it in the comments. I can't wait to see what people say about this, how they react to this. I think there's a lot going on this planet besides biblically, and we got a lot of that too. We have a lot of problems as well. We have, in the United States, over almost 400,000 people on the border that are being bussed in. Yet we have veterans who are homeless on the streets. There's something dreadfully wrong with that. I mean, everybody is working 12 hours a day, and both work. The husband and the wife work and pay for their kids to be sat with or school. But they both are working to pay for this $250,000 home and this $80,000 car, which, geez Louise, I mean, $80,000, I don't want to pay that for a flaming house. I'm just saying. And my husband does get great deals. Well, that also is because they'll tell him it needs, a transmission, and he'll pick it up $400 or $500, slam a transmission in there, and bam, when the insurance settles down what we have to pay for it, they decide it's worth $9,000. So I'm always real happy with my cars. I love my new one. I say it's a new one. It's a 2014. It's new to me. I love this car. I love every car he's ever given me, as a matter of fact. But we won't go that far. At the moment, I'm actually quite relieved to hear that the cat has gone further away from me with that darn bell. I'm trying not to swear like a sailor, which is a true thing. My husband tells me I do that a lot. I think I may have picked that up being an Army veteran for a while there. My son was even born in Heidelberg, Germany, so I did the whole Europe thing. And now I see what's going on, and I'm like, oh, what do we want to talk about? I want to point out the fact that the Israelis were attacked, and attacked in a brutal, vicious, inhuman, evil way. Now, not like 9/11. People are equating this to 9/11. No, it was horrific. 9/11 was horrible. But these people were murdered in front of their children. Their children were murdered in front of them. They were tied together and burnt alive. They beheaded children. They burned children alive. They took 200 and some hostages, we found out just yesterday that the 122 remaining hostages have been killed. Now, when this happened, there almost 1,500 people died in a space of just a few hours. I'm not sure myself why the IDF didn't see this coming. They are considered the best military in the world, and they didn't just drop the ball on this. I don't think they ever had the ball. These kids were in the Negev desert in a rave, and they weren't but a few clicks from the fence that separated them from Gaza. Now, Hamas had taken over Gaza and had become the politicians of Gaza, much like in the United States, and I pray they understand this isn't, it's for entertainment purposes only. But my father said that the mob hung up their Tommy guns and put on ties and went to D.C., which I find is a perfect example of our, well, shall we say legislators. We won't point out too many, like Pelosi. I just had to throw that in. And how much money did Hunter Biden make anyway? And why do they have to keep a laptop from 2014 to 2024 to find out what the heck is in it? I mean, did Jeffrey Epstein actually die because he hung himself? Or did somebody kill him? I mean, there are these things going on, as well as the biblical things like the volcanoes, the earthquakes, and the forest fires, and the tsunamis, and the flooding, and the fires, and it's you know, what next? And then I go, oh, the locusts are there. so you can't even go, what next, because it shows up. So at this point you go, I'm not going to ask that question. So if anybody does want to speak to me or have a discussion about any object, let me know. Put it down there in the comments. Now, I keep saying that. So far, I'm not even sure where the comments are. So hang in there with me while I try to figure all that out, too. Again, right now, we're just recording while I try to figure out all the equipment. I may not publish this one. I have done 4 or 5 now. And I, again, have not decided whether I will actually go live with this one or not. But today is the day I have agreed to go live. So I'm going to stop on this one because my cat really is making me want to hurt them. She's below my feet here at the bar, which it's a really big bar. It has a railing and so forth. So I'm sitting here, and like I say, behind me you can see part of the living room. I'm not on the opposite side of the bar where you would see the bar more. And it's I love the bar. We have only a few friends that we will allow in our home because friends are kind of like family. They're going to slap the crap out of you if they get a chance. And they generally get a chance every couple hours. So we're rather picky at this stage of the game as to who comes in. But I do love the bar, and a lot of people think I'm not quite right because as a female, I love the bar. I'm like, do you go out? You know? I've been going out my whole life. It's a freaking bar, and it's in my house. That's amazingly fun. What's wrong with people? But yeah, I get that. Really, you're okay with a bar? And not just for women, I get it from men too. And again, I don't get that. I mean, I would love it if there was a pool table in the living room. So it's so small a house, I can't figure out how to do that unless we put, like the third bedroom. It may get the pool room and the recording studio. But that would take a lot of work. And right now we just haven't done so. We are both geriatric patients, apparently. Somehow we're supposed to be geriatric, or we were, in our 50s. Well, it's the 21st century, so they don't count you as geriatric until you're 70. So we don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because we're like, oh, okay, so we're not old yet. And then our brains go, hey, stupid. You've been old for decades. So I'm going to wrap this up here, see what I can find out, give this channel a name and a head start, and I hope to hear from everybody as soon as possible. And until then, keep it real, be safe, and God bless.